Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, a registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. This next clip is another clip from the Gym Wits podcast. If you don't know already, I am a co-host to the Gym Wits podcast, and we're a group of people who I'm the nutrition expert. We have Ryan, who's the fitness expert, and then we have Justin, who's your everyday average Joe, who also just happens to be a musician and helps us with like editing and recording and all of that stuff that makes the sounds of that much better than mine, because he does that, and I have someone who helps me, but he's not as fancy pants as Justin. But all that to say, this clip from this episode is all from Ryan. Ryan is a fitness expert, guru, serious fitness professional, and he really, really knows his stuff. And he provides tips on this episode about how to make family fitness fun, particularly during a pandemic when gyms are closed or you might not have equipment. I thought it was really great information. And if you listen to the Gym Wits podcast, then you'll know that those episodes are very long and they're great. But there's a lot of stuff before we really get into the knit and grit. So I wanted to kind of pick out the parts that I felt would be beneficial to you. And I can talk about fitness, but it's not my expertise. Like nutrition's my expertise. For Ryan, fitness is his expertise. So I figured it's best for you to hear it from the expert. So without further ado, here's a clip from one of our most recent episodes.
Yeah. All right. So the main thing we're going to talk about today was some of the benefits of exercising with the family. And actually, for me, I have a presentation for work, and this was part of it. And I thought, this would be a good topic to just talk about. We're in a situation now where a lot of us are home all day with the family all day. And if anything, this is, of all the many negative aspects of it, one positive is you are spending time with the family. Now, it can be positive or negative depending on how you look at it. But incorporating fitness and exercise with the family kind of unit could bring along a lot of benefits that if you're not already taking advantage of it, I would definitely encourage you to if you are, at home with the family. There are a few things. So I want to talk about some of the benefits of it, maybe how to go about it, and some ideas on things you might be able to do with family. So, one really good benefit, I think, of exercising as a group is it helps to model good behavior. So I think for a lot of, our generation, I think we've talked about this before, that we see, exercise is kind of, it's seen as its own, I don't even know how to describe it, but like it's not seen as something that just is incorporated into part of your life. It's just something you do, but it's like almost like a job. You have to get it. You have to do it. You have to achieve it. You have to work towards it. And so by starting kids young as just exercise being just a part of their routine, I think it helps to model that as a healthy thing that you just do. It's not that, crap, I have to get to the gym. It's just, it's part of my life. It's what I do, and it comes in so many forms. So it can be in the gym, it can be outdoors, it can be active, doing it through various activities. But just, I think one of the benefits of doing it with the family and with the kids is that they see the, proper behavior, proper approach to exercise. And that there's not a love-hate relationship with it, but more like, this is just something we do. It's part of my life. And then you can take it wherever you want. If you see exercise as just, it's something that's an aspect of my life that I have, it's like eating. And then you just make the decisions on what foods to eat. It's the same thing with exercise. Like, you just exercise as part of your life. You decide what form it will take, but that it's just part of your life.
To chime in on that. It's just funny how when we were in junior high school and high school, maybe even into college, that there was especially in high school, I felt that there was a lot of cynicism towards exercise. right? That I don't know if you experienced the same thing, but I would tell people, oh, I'm going to the gym or something like that. And they would sort of like snicker at it, be like, you're going to the gym. Why would you want to waste your time doing that? And even then I had this, because we always played sports and, we were into that culture. And I just, even at that young age, I felt like this is a good thing to do long term. And it's like, oh, it's easy for you now when you're 16, and your metabolism, and you can eat anything and you'll be fine, and you won't gain a pound. But wait, just you wait. So I just knew that it would be a, we had that belief, and plus we enjoyed it. But I don't know if you guys ever experienced that cynicism and where it comes from. And it sort of ties in with, if you had grown up with it being a good thing, a normal thing, then maybe people wouldn't have had that.
Well, I think the thing with exercise, and what I was trying to describe or explain earlier, is it's usually looked at as a means to an end, which it is. So it's always kind of a means to an end to staying healthy. But I think that when we think about it, we're always thinking about it as, I have a goal. Like I've got to, I'm exercising because I need to reach a certain goal physically. And the more we can kind of uncouple that or decouple it, the better, because I think it's just, I exercise because it's good for my health. And I think that at a baseline, exercise should just be a part of your life as a baseline, because we live lives that are fairly sedentary, and we don't, just the nature of our lives do not have us generally active enough. And so we need to exercise, for that. And so the more we think about exercise as it's baseline always there. And then, if I have a goal, I can then steer it in a different direction. Maybe I do more weight training, or I do more cardio, or I'm playing sports. So you can play around with how you do it, but that, as a baseline, it's always there. And I think that's one important thing to teach young kids, is that it's just part of life. And the problem with the past, when we were young, is I think most people saw it as, oh, well, what, you want to look like a bodybuilder, or you're training for something? It was always like, if you're exercising for something, rather than just, I'm, exercising because I just want to stay healthy. And so I think it's important to teach kids early that, exercise is a part of life. It's not, it's not always going to be a direct means to it. It's just there.
Yeah, I feel like growing up, it's either you played sports, you danced, or you didn't move your body, you didn't exercise, you were maybe in theater, or you know what I mean? Like it wasn't ever taught to just exercise. It was like, just if you played sports, then you exercised, and it was like in season.
Yeah, exactly. And then actually, so then kind of staying on that, as far as what kid, if you either, for kids, it's like you either play sports, dance, or you're not. And generally they're on their screens. And so I think a really good, important part of exercising, with the family is getting them off the screens. And I think it's important that when you're exercising, if you're going to do it, and this kind of goes a little bit towards like the, how to plan it, it should be screen free. So, you want to keep the kids away from the screens. There's too much time on it, especially now where we have to quarantine and shelter in place. And so there's really limited opportunities for kids to get outside as it is and interact with people. So especially with this, it kind of keeps them a little bit away from the screens, which, seem to be such a massive part of their lives.
So you don't like the idea of like the family gathering around the, like the Roku and slipping on an exercise video or some fun, and everyone doing it together?
Yeah, no, don't do that. Sure. In that way you can, fine. So another benefit is it just kind of gives you common ground to talk about things. If you think about, every family is different. I know families where the parents and kids are super close and can talk about anything. And I know families where, they're not very close at all and have very little to talk about. But at a minimum, again, it gives you some common ground, something to talk about, whether it's the type of exercise you're doing, how well you're doing, things you can do better, changes, how you feel. It does give you some kind of common ground so that everybody can kind of talk about it. And then kind of adding, kind of attached to that is just bonding. It's great bonding time. So again, every family is different, but if you do find that you have a hard time really connecting with your kids or bonding with your kids, exercise is a great way to do it, because you're all doing it. It releases the endorphins. It helps with, mood. It helps with emotional well-being. And so, it will help the kids to open up because, again, you have some kind of a common ground. So it's really great.
It'll also help them fall asleep at night.
That's a great benefit.
Like kids will stay up forever and ever and ever unless you make them tired.
Just an interesting sort of thing to piggyback off of that. I feel that when I was a kid, we would see parents their kids, generally a dad, but sometimes a mom too, throwing a ball with their, son or daughter, in the park. And I felt like as I got older and I started seeing a lot less of that, probably because of just the lifestyle change, phone, your screens, phones and everything. But during the Cove, I've noticed that a lot more parents have been out with their kids doing stuff like throwing a ball in the park, because it's one of the few things that people could do. They could go to the park. So I actually started seeing a lot more of, you could tell that the parents were walking to and from the park with doing some sort of exercise with their kid. And I found that interesting, and maybe it was just my perspective on it, but I noticed it a lot more when I was in New York. And maybe it's just a spike. And when people go back to work and whatnot, you're going to see less of it again. But I just found that interesting that I started noticing more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed it as well. I see a lot of people in the park, kicking soccer balls around with their kids. Yep. And it definitely is, one of the few good things about the pandemic.
My concern is when the weather's not good anymore, though.
Very true.
That's a problem. Well, so that's the thing is that as far as this is concerned, you can always do things indoors. There are options, but it's a little bit hard. You're limited in the activities. When the weather does change. Although, maybe not, you buy some skates if you're in a really cold area, or, you do some cold weather activities, but there's always something to do. So another thing it does, especially if you do have kids that don't play sports, I think one of the benefits of sports is you really learn teamwork, and you learn how to operate as a team. You learn how to work with other people. You learn how to problem solve. And so depending on the activity or what you do, if you're exercising as a family, I think it does teach teamwork and kind of teaches people to collaborate and work together. So especially with kids that are not, as active in playing sports, it's a great way to develop that in kids. And then these last, so again, kind of work together, but as I mentioned earlier, it helps with emotional well-being and helps with managing stress. It helps with self-esteem. So these are all kind of psychological benefits to kids exercising and then working together as a family, especially if you're positive and encouraging. And also as a side benefit, it also helps with academic performance. So, there are plenty of studies showing that exercise can help with academic performance in kids. So, and with developing cognitive capacity, and especially with the developing brain, it's really beneficial. So, again, especially if you have kids that are not as active, it's a great thing to do. And I think exercising as a family, has loads of benefits. So these are kind of some of the the main ones. Anything you guys can think of, any benefits that I didn't touch on?
Self-esteem.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, just it's surprising that I don't even know if you mentioned it, but just being in being better physical health. Like that seems like you didn't even mention that part, but. Right?
Well, yeah, but
it's like it does, and just because you're a kid doesn't mean you can't be in better shape, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and then kind of going off of that, like the sooner you start to develop like your muscle mass and you start to actually strengthen your muscle mass, like the bigger the more like you're going to just have stronger muscles. Like the sooner you start working them, the better it is.
Yep.
Basically.
So, okay. I don't know if you were going to get to this or not, but all right, let's give a typical scenario right now. You can't, maybe you're in a situation, there is no park, you can't go outside, or maybe it's cold outside. The Cove is still going on. You have 2 5-year-olds in the house. And you don't have many, maybe you have a tiny outdoor area, or maybe you have some stairs. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what's
right,
your
let's hold off
game?
that for a minute. Hold off that. For that.
I knew you were going to get to it.
So first thing is like, if to incorporate the family, a couple, things to kind of think about. If you're going to, if you want to get the family involved, especially if you haven't, is try to find something that's convenient for everybody. So it's got to be, time when the kids are, obviously are home. If they've got if they meet up with their friends to play video games at 10 o'clock, you don't necessarily want to pull them away from that. You want to find something that is convenient for everybody, because you do want to. You want them to enjoy doing it. Sure. And you don't want them to kind of resent you for bringing them in. You want to try to give them some time to mentally prepare for it. So you don't want to just walk up and say, all right, we're all exercising. Give them a little bit of time. Say, tomorrow at this time, we're going to all get together and exercise. Make it fun and enjoyable. So especially early on, you don't want it, you don't want to get kids that haven't exercised and just start throwing them into doing like push-ups and burpees and everything. Like, and if you do, you want, it's got to be done in a way that's fun and engaging for them. If you just throw them into, it being really hard, arduous work, before they're ready for it, then it might defeat the purpose of starting with it. Try to have goals.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to touch on that. So you say try to make it fun, but that is not necessarily an intuitive thing. I know for you and for us, we could it's like if you're positive, you say, all right, now we're going to try to do 10 jumping jacks. Let's see if we can do it. And you put on that. But so not everyone has that personality or that that ability. It's kind of like when people would want you to be a drill sergeant. You're like, nope, not me. Not going to do it. Right. So when you say make it fun, I know that it's an esoteric concept, but if you could just give a couple ideas.
When I get to the different ideas, we'll get to that. Fun. I don't mean it like everybody's smiling and laughing and jumping around. That's a little bit different. What I mean by fun is more that they're engaged and they're happy. They're happy doing what they're doing. I don't mean necessarily that it's got to be you're just dancing around and everyone's thrilled. So just like that they don't hate what they're doing. Okay. So that's where I'll give you a few ideas of things. So goals are important. So now the goals can vary. It could be goals as in all right, next week we're all going to do 2 workouts, or it can be, for kids maybe that are more into it, it could be, all right, we're going to shoot for, specific metrics. Like we're going to do X amount of push-ups. One great goal is like a step goal. So we're going to all, we want to get, X amount of steps. So maybe you do family walks and you're going to do, 5,000 steps. So goals are good because I think that's something that a lot of kids will latch onto. If they have something tangible, especially when I've worked with kids in fitness, they can be nightmares to work with. But if you give them something like that to work with, it tends to keep them motivated and keep their eye on the ball a little bit. So, and again, like I said, it could vary a lot. It could be just a matter of you're doing 2 workouts a week. It could be we're doing a amount of push-ups. We're going to try to, as a family, we're going to let's say maybe if the family has weight issues, maybe it's okay, as a family, we're going to try to lose 5 pounds next week. So you can vary up the different kinds of goals and what you want to work towards, but some kinds of weekly goal or metric can be useful to kind of keeping everybody engaged. So now when it comes to specific activities, there are tons of activities. So I'm going to go over a few that I think are useful and things that will kind of help keep people engaged. So the simplest thing you could do is an after dinner walk. After you eat, everybody, family gets together and you just go for a nice long walk. And again, you could set it for, a certain amount of steps. It could be you're going to go a certain distance, but that's kind of a simple activity that most people don't do. So first of all, a lot of families don't eat together. So imagine time you eat together and you all go for a walk as a family. So it's a simple activity, but it'd be surprising how many people don't even get that much. And it's something you're doing as a family. Another thing you do is so this could be, it's obviously a lot easier outdoors, but it could totally be done indoors, is setting up an obstacle course for the kids. Okay. Or for the family. So you use any number of things you have in the house or apartment. Again, the larger the house, larger the yard, the easier it's going to be. But setting up an obstacle course where you've got to jump over things or crawl under things or climb over things. You get to if you're tighter space, maybe you set up a circuit. So each station, okay, you got to do 5 burpees at this station, and then you get to this spot and you got to do 5 push-ups, and then you get to another spot and you got to do 20 jumping jacks. So you can kind of set up an obstacle course or a circuit around the house, around the apartment, in the backyard, where everybody, at each spot, you have something fun or interesting or different to do. And then again, unlimited exercises to choose from when you're doing something like that. So for younger kids, it might be, jumping jacks, or, younger kids like to do exercises. So you can kind of push them a little bit. And for older kids, you're motivating them with doing real things, real exercises. So you can play around a lot with it depending on who's involved, depending on the family, depending on what you have access to. But an obstacle course or a circuit is a great little thing to do to keep people exercising. Okay. So, again, hikes and biking are really great, but obviously you need weather and location. So if you can do a family bike ride, it's great, but not everybody has access to that. A family hike, again, is another great thing. If you have it, but not everyone has access to that, but those are things that you can do that are active, and, it's not as, you don't have to think too much outside of the direction you're going. You're just kind of moving. Another cool thing is trying out a different sport. So you might say like, okay, one of our weekly activities is we're going to try out a different sport every week. So it might be like, okay, maybe, I've never played baseball, but you know what? I'm going to buy some gloves and some baseball. And obviously this requires space and equipment and money, but like, all right, we're going to try throwing around a baseball, or try, go to the batting cage. Next week, we're going to toss a football around. We're going to try, kicking a ball around. So you can maybe say, okay, we're going to try out a different sport, or, and learn different skills or aspects of the sport. And it may not necessarily be that you want to get necessarily really good at it, but even practicing skills from sports, it's great exercise, and it's great for coordination. Could potentially be good for endurance. So that's another activity that again might be more fun than, let's say, doing a traditional workout, because you're trying something new. So that's also another thing that might be useful to do as a family. And again, and a nice thing about that is, let's say, you're trying out a sport that you and your kids have never done, you're going to look just as bad as the kids are going to look doing it. So you're all learning together.
Much worse.
Again, exactly. So it's a great way to kind of learn together. As a family and as a group. So a couple other things. So now there's, as Justin mentioned earlier, there are a million digital things. So you could try maybe, every week we're going to do a different streaming workout. So it might be, and I mean, you have a billion platforms for it. So some that are paid, some that are not, but it could be, okay, this week we're going to do yoga, and next week we're going to do like a boot camp, and the next week we're going to do a cardio kickboxing class. So you can just take advantage of digital. So if you really don't have access to outdoor stuff, you could do, there are any number of digital things. Another thing is a dance party. So like, this is what I read when I was doing some research on it. Like, I wouldn't do it, but you could do a family dance party.
I think that all our listeners want to see you guys do a dance party.
Yeah.
I think you need to.
Never gonna. So
for someone who's so coordinated like Ryan, he is just not into dancing. Like it must have during your wedding, it must have been like. I don't know. I guess you were inspired on another level to do a dance in front of people. And even that went off the rails. Like I hired an instructor. I just wanted him to like, look, just help me get through this dance. And then he gave us this crazy coordinated, like insane, like choreographed thing. It was like, I didn't want that. I just wanted like a basic, like make me not look ridiculous for my first dance. Aww. So that was the whole thing in itself. So a couple other things so one thing a little more specific is I have a fun card game that I play with kids that I work with. They love this game too. So basically you take a deck of cards. So you have hearts, spades, diamonds, clubs. So you assign an exercise to each card. So let's say push-ups will be hearts. Burpees will be diamonds, right? And then whatever for the other ones. So you have your numbers 1 to 10. Then Jack is 15, Queen is 20, King is 25, and Ace is 30. So basically you shuffle the cards and you hand them out. So the kids draw however many cards you want to do. You could hand out all the cards to everybody. You could do 4 cards at a time, but the kids then get to draw the cards, and then whatever the card is, they've got to do it. So if it's an ace of hearts, they've got to do 30 push-ups. And, and then, depending on how many people are involved, you can have people that trade. So I sometimes will let them trade cards.
That's
so like,
fine.
Some kid might get 30 burpees and they'll trade the 30 burpees to somebody else for like whatever, 20 push-ups and 20 sit-ups or something. So that's a really fun game, and kids love it. And even though I can put the hardest exercise, again, I can put burpees and push-ups and like mountain climbers and, squat jumps, and they just love the fact that they're playing the game. So any kind of fitness game is really fun. And that one tends to work really well, and it's like endless fun. For whatever reason, the kids just love doing it, so they keep wanting to play the card game. And then the other thing you could do is kind of follow the leader. So basically, you would say to your kids, which again is a great way to get them involved. It's like, all right, you get to decide the workout for today, or you get to decide 5 minutes. Like, maybe you say, if there's a family of 5, like everybody gets to decide 5 minutes worth of the exercise for today, so that you're getting everybody involved. Or it could be like round robin. So maybe you do one exercise, then, kid does another, and then I do another, until we just kind of go in a circle. We keep changing the exercises. So there are any number of ways you can do the kind of follow the leader thing, but it's a great way to then get the kids involved, because you're all, they're making decisions as well as you. So it's not just you kind of deciding on everything. So, with any of this, like the more interactive you can make it. And again, like that's what I mean by fun is like things that are engaging. So the kids, like when I do the card game, when it comes to the actual exercises, they don't necessarily love the exercises, but they really enjoy the aspect of it that gamifies it. So the more you can kind of gamify exercise for kids, the more fun it can be.
Yeah, those last two suggestions were great. And the obstacle course, those sound like really fun, different sort of suggestions that are actually going to get the family engaged. Whereas the other ones are going to be helpful and it might be awesome for them. But I feel like those other ones are really something that people are probably going to try.
Exactly. So those are and then some things you're going to find work, some things won't. But just keep trying. There's tons of great products as well. Like you can get like kind of similar to what I've found like fitness dice, which are kind of fun. So it's same idea where you just roll the die and it'll tell you to do whatever the exercise is. So you have like tons of options. And yeah, like definitely, I think those three are probably the ones that are most likely to work well with kids anyway. So
how do you feel? How do you feel about blackmail? Like, or not, or more like less than blackmail, more. How about this? Let's spin it a positive way. Incentives. All right. If you can do an extra 20 burpees today and an extra, 50 jumping jacks, you get an extra cookie or something, or some sort of almost arbitrary incentive.
You definitely don't want to use food as a reward.
Okay.
And you definitely don't want people to think that the more they work out, the more they can eat. And that's a vicious.
I'm thinking more for a very young kid or some sort of random, or arbitrary. Absolutely. Yeah. Of course, you never want to do that. Sorry, I won't mention the food thing, but some sort of arbitrary incentive that a kid might be
with any of it.
Stickers work so good for kids. Like and then like how many days a week did we do our workouts?
Well, a dumb thing that's kind of related to stickers, but even more abstract is I would just say you get like 5 points.
Okay.
And the kids would never understand what I meant by 5 points. I never tallied up the points, but I would just say, if you do whatever, you get 10 points. And for whatever reason, they wanted to do it because they wanted the 10 points, even though again, like there was no board, there was no really tally of the points. I didn't ever keep, I didn't keep track of it. They didn't keep track of it, but for whatever reason, just telling them they get points.
It's an interesting
So to answer that, so I think, I'm not an expert. I'm not a child psychologist. So I'm limited, fairly limited in how I can answer, but I would just say I would be careful about so you would want it to be like a bonus.
Okay.
So like, let's say for screen time, so let's say, so let's say you manage your kid's screen time. So like they get an hour of screen time a day, or, they get 2 hours a day. Now what I would do is this: you separate the screen time is its own thing. The workouts are their own thing. So you don't want to make it so that you have to exercise for screen time.
So that's blackmail is a bad thing,
because that's blackmail. They're going to look at the exercise as a negative because, I only have to, I have to do that for screen. Because what they're really looking at is you're taking away screen time if they don't exercise. Yes. So there could be a negative correlation there. What I would say is, you might say it for a bonus. So maybe the workout's one thing, screen time's another thing. It's its own thing. You might say, all right, if we do an extra circuit, let's say an extra round of a circuit, I'll give you 30 minutes extra of screen time. So in that way, it's a bonus. Mm-hmm. They haven't lost anything because they always have their hour of screen time, and they've done their exercise. So those two are separate. They're not mutually exclusive. You don't need one or the other. They're not connected in any way. But then you might say, all right, if you guys can give me 10 more burpees and you get 15 minutes extra screen time, then I can see how that works, because they're already into it. They're already excited. They're already having fun. And you just gave them a bonus for doing a couple extra burpees. Like, that's different than if you're like, you only get screen time if you exercise. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I'd say, if it's a reward that's independent of either thing, that's fine. But I just wouldn't be like, you know what, you can't have your cheeseburger unless you do your stuff, because then that's going to be,
please,
I think that's problematic. And that creates a negative association with it too.
Yeah, that would be terrible. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed another Tips with Tony / Gymwits podcast episode. If you did, please subscribe to the Tips with Tony podcast and also head over to the Gymwits podcast to hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this episode, screenshot it, share it on your story, share it with someone who maybe is not on social media or post it on social media. Tag me at tips_with_Tony. That's Tony with an I, and tag the Gymwits as well. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.